Uh, uh. What's up, guys? David with Photo Pit Media here, coming at you today with the first ever podcast of All Access Behind the Barricade. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Like I said, this is our first podcast. There's many, many more to come. In this podcast, I'm essentially going to be talking about concert photography, specifically how to break into the business, gear, settings. I want to have some interviews with some friends of mine, bring them on the show and kind of pick their brains a little bit, both local as well as national photographers that you may have heard from. This is a big family of us out here, and we really want to support our own. So anyway, once again, thank you so much for tuning into the show, and the first episode is coming up to you right now. What's up, guys? David with Photo Pit Media here. Thank you so much for tuning into the first episode. This first episode is going to be primarily about who I am, how I got into this, and my goals for not only my concert photography, but also for this podcast now. So anyway, again, my name is David Correa. I'm the owner and operator of Photo Pit Media. We're a multimedia imaging company. We do photography, we do videography, portraits, artist portraits, and then now we've expanded out to doing this podcast. So essentially, I got into doing concert photography a few years ago. A little bit about my background is I've been in the music industry for a very long time. I've been a touring guitar tech. I've been a tour manager. I've been on the road with bands, in the bands, seen the country, been there, done that type thing. And it was a huge part of my life for a very long time. And when I came back in 2013, from a tour, I had started up a job, and I met my wife. I met this girl that would soon be my wife, that is. And, priorities very quickly changed, and I found that there was that hole that, music and touring was, being now filled by my then girlfriend, now wife. And so a few years had passed, and I started to get the itch again to go on the road, and I got the itch again to be involved in music. And several attempts at starting bands and joining bands is kind of here and there. It really wasn't what I was looking to do. So I had a camera, and I figured, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can shoot a show, and just see how easy it is to get in. So the first show that I shot was for a friend of mine's band. I apologize. It's very hard to get all this out freely without writing it down. I don't want to script anything on this show, so there's going to be flubs. So anyway, I was shooting for a friend of mine's band. They had just started out with their band. I had just started out with my photography thing, or this idea. And, I asked them if I could shoot them. They said, sure. Went out, shoot them at some, small hole-in-the-wall bar. And I had a blast, and they really enjoyed the pictures. Went and shot for another buddy's band, and, they liked the pictures as well. I really liked the pictures. I really had a good time doing it. And, so I was like, let me see if I can go any bigger with this. And so I messaged one of my favorite bands, and I was like, hey, two things. I'm a photographer. I'm building a portfolio. I'm really not that good, but, I'm offering to come to your show and shoot pictures for free. Oh, by the way, it's my birthday. No big deal. And in like a day, they emailed me back, and they were like, yeah, come on out. And I thought that Ashton Kutcher was going to jump out at me and tell me I was punked, but no, I got my confirmation for my photo pass. I went to the show. I had my camera ready to go. I got my photo pass, shot the show, edited the pictures. Like, I had to download Lightroom because I didn't even have it at the time, and so edited all the pictures to the best of my ability at the time, especially for just downloading the software. Sent it off to not only the band that I originally was there to shoot, but I was able to shoot all the bands that night, so I sent the pictures to all the bands and got really good responses back. And from there, that was the bite. I got bit by the photography bug, and I haven't looked back since. Um, so, just to give you kind of an idea of how it started, as far as gear, because you kind of heard the story of how it started. As far as gear goes, I had a Nikon D at that time 3200 crop sensor camera with a like 18 to 25 or 18 to 55, sorry, millimeter kit lens. And I went in there and just, shot like I was supposed to be there. And that was sufficient for me at the time, and the pictures actually turned out pretty good. And so then after I got bit by the bug, I had to upgrade because I realized that low light photography is extremely difficult. Go figure. And so I got the Nikon D3300, which was a step up, I guess a newer version of that 3200 crop sensor camera, but it was still a crop sensor. Shot some shows with that. Got some really good pictures. A lot of pictures are still being used today that I shot with that camera, which is pretty cool. And then eventually, once this started bringing money in, and I was able to kind of support my habit, I ended up buying a Nikon D750 full frame, which is absolutely incredible in low light. Purchased a few extremely expensive lenses, some of which I don't even use, or very, very rarely use, rather. And then I purchased some other lenses that will help me in low light situations. And all that money I spent, and I still only use probably 2 lenses live, which is, kind of funny. Portrait photography for bands is something completely different. There's a whole other set of gear that we'll talk about later. But that's essentially the gear that I started with to the gear that I'm using now. And that's about it. There really wasn't anything special. I shot with what I had. I learned. Obviously, I put it in manual mode. I didn't shoot in automatic. I didn't shoot in aperture priority. I just went straight to manual and just kind of fiddled with it until it looked good. And, that's kind of been my... It's worked for me this whole time. I don't know if it worked for anybody else like that. Maybe you can leave a comment below and let me know. Did you go to school for this? Did you have a friend teach you how to do this? Or is this just something that, came naturally to you? So anyway, that is how I got into it. That is the gear that I was using and am currently using. I guess the only other thing to talk about is kind of where it's at now and where it's going to be. As of right now, I've built up a pretty solid name for myself, and I'm pretty excited about that and extremely thankful that there's been a lot of bands, management, PR that has trusted me enough to take pictures of their artists or of themselves. I'm kind of on a break right now, if you will. I just moved not too long ago to a new house and a new area, completely new area, where I used to live down in Baltimore. I'm now living up near Pennsylvania, so trying to figure out the local venues around here and kind of how things move here, and then also traveling to those shows. It's actually a good thing. Since I do live up near Pennsylvania, I'm right in the middle of the triangle, so I have, I can get to Maryland. I'm in Maryland, but I can get to Baltimore relatively quickly. I can get up to Philadelphia relatively quickly. I can get to Delaware. It's kind of a perfect area to be, and so I'm just trying to get my footing here. As far as plans, obviously I want to keep on shooting bigger and bigger shows, bigger and bigger artists. But quite honestly, I really enjoy working for my friends. There's a bunch of people that I'm going to be bringing on the show that I shoot with on pretty much a weekly basis. There's some bands that I've shot what feels like on a weekly basis because I've worked for them so much. But yeah, just bigger and bigger shows, bigger and bigger bands. Continue to upgrade my gear as needed. I don't want to have the gas syndrome, the gear acquisition syndrome. And that's about it. And, kind of just see where it goes. It's, right now it's kind of a part-time thing for me. But it's, it's making good money where it comes. All right, guys. Hey, thank you so much for tuning in to the first episode of All Access Pass Behind the Barricade. Once again, my name is David Correa, the owner and operator of Photo Pit Media. Next week on the show, I'm going to have my good buddy Scott Homebrew of Mr. Homebrew Photography, almost flubbed up there. And we're going to pick his brain a little bit, see if we can get some tips and tricks, see how he got started in the game, what kind of gear he's using. We'll nerd out a little bit with my buddy Scott. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in. There will be many more of these to come. Please comment and subscribe and all that good stuff that you do with a podcast, and help me get this out there and help other photographers in the local area as well as the national scene. All right, peace.